If the numbers say you can retire, but you're still saying, well, maybe just one more year, this video is for you because that decision is not about money. And deep down, you already know that. Most people don't delay retirement because the numbers don't work. They delay because retiring means becoming someone different. And that's a harder thing to face than any planning model. One more year sounds responsible, even wise, and nobody really questions it. But once the math works, that extra year usually has nothing to do with money. It's about staying inside a structure that feels familiar, a structure that tells you who you are every single morning. So before we go any further, I want to walk through three things. First, why one more year feels right, even when it's quietly costing you something. Second, how obsessing over the numbers can become a distraction from the real question. And third, what it actually looks like to build something worth retiring to. Because there's a difference between retiring from something and retiring to something, and that difference is everything. So picture this. You're an airline pilot. You're flying for a major airline. Your routes are assigned. The air traffic control tower is talking to you. There's a co-pilot right beside you, and you're watching all your gauges, right? Altitude, airspeed, heading. You always know where you are, and you always know what to do. There's a system, and you're part of it, and you know it well. Now, imagine the day that you retire. The tower goes quiet. No assigned route. No co-pilot anymore. You're still capable of flying, every bit as skilled as you ever were. But now, you decide where to go. And that can feel freeing, but can also feel lonely and sometimes overwhelming. Like somebody turned off all the instruments all at once. So staying in the system one more year, that can feel stabilizing. It keeps the gauges on. And if the numbers say you can retire, but don't require you to, why leave yet? Here's why that question matters. If you work 60 hours a week, that's roughly 3,000 hours a year. 3,000 hours where nothing about your identity shifts. 3,000 hours not yet building what comes next. That year always passes. Time doesn't ask permission. The accounts might grow higher, but those hours, they're gone forever. When you're piloting that plane, you trust the gauges. They tell you if you're safe and if you're on course. But retirement doesn't come with gauges. There's no dial that measures purpose. No instrument that tells you you're ready to redefine yourself. So when that identity shift starts to feel uncertain, we reach for what we know, the numbers. We tweak the withdrawal plan, debate whether Roth conversions make sense, adjust the asset allocation, and it feels like progress. But here's what's actually happening. That's not progress. It's displacement. The tactics are masquerading as answers to a question that isn't financial. The action is being mistaken for readiness. The numbers give us something to adjust, something to control, but they don't answer the real question. Who are you when the structure changes? That's the part no model can solve, and that's the part that keeps people up at night, even when the math works out perfectly. Let's take a look at this in real life. Meet Mark. He's 60 years old, and the numbers say that he can retire, so he's done everything right. He works a demanding career with long hours. People rely on him every single day. His calendar is full from the moment he wakes up, and every second of his day is accounted for. And because of that, most of his relationships run through work. His friendships, sense of purpose, the feeling he has of being needed. All of that lives inside that structure. He looks at his financial picture, and everything checks out. So he says, well, maybe just one more year. Not because he needs more money, but because stepping away means losing the only version of himself he's known for decades. So if he works another 60 hours a week, that's 3,000 hours for the year. That's 3,000 hours not yet building what comes next. And that year will pass, because time always does. The account can grow, but the hours are gone. Now let's meet Kim. Same age as Mark, similar savings. The numbers work for her too, but Kim made a different choice somewhere along the way. Her life outside of work didn't wait until retirement to begin. Over the years, she invested time in relationships that had nothing to do with her job. She joined a group that meets regularly, and she volunteers. She carved out space in her week, and that space wasn't defined by her role at work. She found work fulfilling, but it wasn't the only place that she felt needed. So when she looks at the same numbers that Mark looked at, the reaction is completely different. It's not maybe one more year, it's when do I start? Because she's not stepping into a void. She's stepping further into something that already exists. Now, let's just take a look at this honestly. Not everyone has the same flexibility that Kim has in that example. Some careers are just too demanding. They leave almost no room for much else. But even Mark has choices. Not dramatic overnight reinvention, and not burning down everything just to start over, just conscious time investments. One weekly commitment to a relationship outside of work. One protected afternoon a month. That's it. That's how readiness gets built. Not all at once, but over time. Retirement isn't just about whether the money is there. It's about whether something has been growing alongside the money. If you recognize yourself in Mark, that is not a character flaw. That's awareness. And awareness is where change begins. Retirement is not just a financial event, it's an identity shift. One more year might grow the accounts a bit more, but it won't automatically create the life waiting beyond the work. That requires intention while you're working, because money can make retirement affordable, but only a life built alongside your career can make it something you actually look forward to. So here's the real question. It's not do I have enough, but am I building something to retire to? Those are two very different questions, and only one of them leads somewhere worth going. If you've made it to this point, congratulations. You're someone who's serious about their retirement, not just hitting a number, but building a life worth retiring to. Now here's the thing. Most people obsess over tactics like Roth conversions, withdrawal sequences, tax optimization. All of that matters, but none of it answers the question that we just talked about. Who are you when the structure changes? I made a video recently that breaks down when Roth conversions actually make sense and when they're just a distraction from the real work. If you're spending more time tweaking your portfolio than building what comes next, that video will help you see the difference. I suggest you watch it next.